welcome back to the Journalistic Revolution. This is part 3 of the interview with Mike Troy. In this one, we discuss Oath Keepers and other related topics. And here you go. Well, my next question would be, though, is as a former military, former Army, do you agree with, say, like Oath Keepers, that it's a duty to disobey illegal or immoral orders?
I don't think that should solely be an oath keeper thing, because technically, if you take the oath of office, if you take the oath to be a soldier, you are already inherently supposed to be an oath keeper. I mean, we are trained when we're coming up through the ranks, and and training, whatever, that we have a duty to disobey illegal or immoral orders because they are in fact illegal or immoral. But when I was also a soldier before I became an NCO, non-commissioned officer for the civilian types, I was also told that you aren't allowed to question orders, you are to follow orders, and I'm like, because this was another NCO telling me this back when I was enlisted. You can't question those orders. I'm like, well, if our duty is to disobey law orders which are illegal and or immoral, then whose job is it? Well, that's the officer's job. I'm like, well, what if they either don't care, don't know, or let one slip by? And that's when I got crickets. And I mean, it's like, if we have a duty, but we know no one knows this or is allowed to voice this. Because let's say, for instance, before I had left the Army, I had received orders to deploy to Iraq again. Knowing what I know now, I probably would be in jail for refusing those orders. Like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, well, show me a declaration from Congress saying that we are at war. Once again, crickets. It's like, well, Obama gave us this authority. He doesn't have that authority to give.
Yeah, it's funny that you bring that up, because I'm former military. I'm a Florida Army National Guard, but even the National Guard, they go to the same military training as the regular Army. And what they're telling the soldiers now is very contradictory to what they told us when I joined in just '96. They told us to disobey unconstitutional, unlawful, or immoral orders. They made a very point of telling us that. And what you're telling me now is that's changed. When did you join?
I came in late about 3, but the sergeant back when I was a specialist in '06. The sergeant who told me that was the fact that you are not allowed to question orders. So that was '06.
So in a matter of 7 to 10 years, I mean, without having anybody else to tell me any different, or it started earlier, the military's fundamentally changed their belief about the soldier following the oath of the Constitution from what they're telling you. I mean, obviously you can't speak for every officer, but this one in particular, and it seems like a growing trend amongst most of the soldiers.
Yeah, and that's what's scary, is the fact that I don't always agree with Adam Kokesh's beliefs or his approach or whatever, but he had interviewed a staff sergeant and put on a video the other day, and I'm like, oh dear God, it's like that. I mean, foreign policy is my number one reason why I left the military. And my number 2 reason was the possibility of having to serve alongside someone like that.
Yeah, I saw that same video, and my jaw dropped. I couldn't believe it.
I mean, it's just like, wow, holy shit. I mean, if these are the kind of soldiers, and he was in E6, so the type of leaders that our soldiers are entrusted with, and they are, politically apathetic, because that's the cool thing to do, as long as Dancing with the Stars is still airing. I mean, if he's not paying attention, and he's a leader who has soldiers in his charge, and who's both receives orders and gives orders, then where is the filter for orders which we're not supposed to follow?
It's kind of funny you bring that up, because there's all this stuff coming out in the news about the litmus tests that Obama is making the senior officers, generals, and lieutenants and whatever taking, that if they fail the litmus test, and from what I understand, the little bit of research I've done, is if in the way they answer the questions, it turns out if you're not willing to shoot on American citizens, then you're immediately relieved of your duty. I don't know if you've seen anything like that or read anything about that.
I've read some stuff about that, and I guess my response to that would be print out the Constitution, put it in his face, and say, "Should we call you the kettle or the pot?"
Well, let me ask you this. All right, let's say someone does disobey what they feel is illegal, which that one's pretty provable, but one that they think is immoral. Should there be repercussions for someone who's making an immoral judgment instead of a legal one?
I think there should be no repercussions if until when that has been investigated by either a military judge or jury or lawyer, or whatever, or a non-military, to take the bias out of it. But I don't think there should be any repercussions for doing what you feel is right
Sort of like
until if and when you've been proven that you're wrong.
Sort of like sorry, sort of like what's happening to Bradley Manning.
Yeah, I mean, he's been incarcerated, and for what, over 1,000 days, and his trial isn't even set for next month. I mean, granted, in the military, your constitutional rights are vastly limited. Like, I had to wait until last Monday at 1 p.m. Before I could call Obama a charmer in chief, or whatever. Because his charisma overrides everything.
Yeah, because he's just such a good speaker. Mike, you can't insult such a good speaker.
Yeah.
Now, more into modern or updated news. Have you heard about this conflict in Mali, or have any opinion on it?
No, I haven't really been paying attention to it because I don't really turn my TV on, because last time I turned my TV on, I found myself yelling at CBS News like twice in 20 minutes before 9 a.m. I'm like, I can't do this.
My wife won't let me watch Fox. Yeah, back to Mali. Now, the USA has been playing with the idea of their involvement. Like, from what I've read about the Mali conflict, is that there is a civil war rising there, and for some reason the UN is calling on the French to do something about it, because and I quote, this is their reason that they say the French should do something, because the French used to own Mali back when they had an empire. It ultimately falls on their responsibility to get involved.
I think that can also just be thrown under the intervention blanket. I mean, intervention, our current foreign policy that every president since 1953 has endorsed, or I guess followed through on. Once again, foreign policy was my number one reason for leaving the army. I was tired of being thought of as the world's policeman. I was tired of feeling that the U.S. needs to involve itself in every single thing that happens throughout the world. I mean, I don't agree with it. I mean, there's a reason why we're hated, and it has nothing to do with the freedoms that we have left. It's because we feel our need to put our nose in everyone else's business, because we have this, I hate this phrase, but this moral authority to intervene where we're not wanted.
Yeah.
And I mean,
so if I was to ask you, should the USA get involved in the Mali conflict, your answer would be
hell no.
All right.
Unless the Mali conflict then posed some sort of substantial, and I don't mean substantial by today's standards, but actual substantial, imminent threat and or attack us.
Yeah, some sort of clear and present and imminent danger, right?
Yeah, not the danger that Iraq posed to us back in 2001, but actual threat.
Yeah.
or the threat that Iraq 2.0, aka Iran, poses to us today. Involve ourselves if there's a just reason to, and if Congress declares it. Otherwise, how about we just worry about our own selves? Why are we so worried about the nuances of other nations when we have 16 trillion in debt? We have 86 million in food stamps. We have homeless veterans. We have all these people here that could use our help first. Now, granted, I'm not a fan of the welfare from cradle to grave position. But before we worry about other countries' citizens, how about let's worry about our own first? Take care of each other, and then once our economy is flourishing, then maybe we can inspire some of our private humanitarian organizations to take part in this, because frankly, I just don't want taxpayer money going to another country.
And that was part 3 of Mike Troy's interview. Make sure you stay tuned for part 4.
So I'm saying, peace out, sayonara, see you